Up, friends and family, welcome to my very first Meet the Author Day. I'm very excited today because the author I want to introduce you to has written a wonderful book, second book coming, but it was his idea for me to do the Meet the Author segment. So I couldn't not invite him to be my first author. So please welcome Christopher Mirabile, who writes the Washashore. So welcome on board. Thank you very much for everything.
Hey, Stephen, thanks for having me, and hello to all your followers.
Thank you very much. So we'll get straight into the book because I love this book. I reviewed it a couple of weeks ago, and I get nervous every time I'm asked to read a first author book for many reasons. Some first authors, the book's got plot holes, poorly developed characters, very, very poor editing, conversations that are inane. I can promise everyone the Washashore has none of that. This is a very polished, very, very first novel and one of many more to come because it's the first in the series and I want 10 up in this series because I think it's great. So no pressure, but if you could write 10, I'll read all 10.
Oh, you're very kind. I think it's a combination of beginner's luck and good editing. The book has been through multiple levels of professional editing, which I really treated as an opportunity to learn. I've written a lot of nonfiction, and I was an English major, but this was my first foray into fiction. So it's really been a wonderful learning process.
Well, that aside, the plot, the story, the characters, they're all exceptional, and that's all you.
I wanted to create an indelible hero, someone who was sort of unforgettable, and I feel like I'm getting there with Silas.
Oh, I think Silas is one of the greatest mystery solving detectives with an interesting past characters that I've come across in a long time. And I read, so many books a month. So tell us about Silas because you'll do. Well, let me briefly tell you my synopsis of the book. So Silas becomes a new police chief in Provincetown, Massachusetts by accident. You can tell us that part as well. And he's a fish out of water. Like his background does not prepare him to be a Provincetown police chief. And the police department's in a bit of disarray, so he needs to solve that. On top of all that, his first case is a hit and run where a partner of a gay guy has been killed. And that's just the tip of the iceberg about that mystery and what's involved there. So no spoilers from me. Is that pretty clear?
You nailed it. So let's talk about Silas for a second. So he is a 15th generation ranch hand, descendant of Spanish colonials from the American Southwest, the high desert West. And he spends most of his time alone and on horseback. And he's an introverted guy. So in a lot of ways, he's not really prepared for the modern world, let alone being transplanted to the eastern seaboard where the pace of life is a lot faster, the population's density is a lot higher. And he's a guy who is he's not into labels and he's not into politics. He just has this innate sort of progressive sense of what's right and what's decent. And he doesn't really know his own strength. He's 6 feet 6 inches tall, and he kind of grew up fighting and wrestling cattle and dealing with stuff. And so, he gets into the occasional scrape. He has a very highly developed sense of what's right and wrong. And let's just say that he needed to leave the Colorado, New Mexico area in a hurry. And he learned his craft as a cop in Salt Lake City and didn't really like the city lifestyle. Maybe got into another scrape there. And so he set off to start over with his dog Bandit, sold everything he owned except the shirt on his back and the dog bowl. And he sets out across the country because he wants to see a different part of the world. He's never seen the ocean.
And he really, he's such a fish out of water. He uses terms like wrestling a pig in in mud or something, and the people in Provincetown are just like, "What are you talking about?" So, but
Never mud wrestle with a pig. Yeah, you both get muddy, but the pig likes it.
that's it. And but it works. Like he's what this police department needs because they're in disarray. Poor Sergeant Clark, he's just a mess of a young police officer, but he needs someone like Silas to sort him out. They all do.
Yeah, the mentorship theme was an important one. There were a number of themes I was going after with this book, but I think that behind every great person and great achievement, there is an often silent and invisible mentor. And so it was important to me to make Silas into a mentor and have him inherit a department that was full of raw talent, but just a mess because of departures at the senior level. And it was a perfect fit because Silas is kind of a mess too. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a nice fit.
They all need each other. But Silas is an introvert, and he's great at his job. He's great as a police officer, as a police chief of police, in my opinion. He's not doesn't have very good social skills, and then he meets the lovely Wren Ashford, and this could be a future love interest for him. He almost talks himself and herself, and the few in situations where things don't run smoothly. But is this without? I hope I'm not spoiling anything. But is this something that readers can look forward to in future books? This storyline.
Yeah, so Ren Bradford
Sorry, Bradford.
was
Sorry.
specifically constructed to be a foil and be as different as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Bradford Governor Bradford was the head of the Pilgrim expedition, right? The Pilgrim colony, and she's a descendant of the original Pilgrims on the East Coast, and they just couldn't be more different.
No.
She grew up in a house with domestic help and silver and fine china, and went to the finest schools, and she's extraordinarily high EQ, and she's a social worker and a fine arts photographer, and they are each other's exception. He
Yeah.
he has got no he doesn't realize how handsome he is, but he has no business going after a gal like this.
Right.
And
Right.
in a million years, she would never be interested in a guy who has calluses on his emotions, right? I mean, just the worlds collide when these two, and I mean, there's a really, really funny scene, I think funny, and people have confirmed that they found it funny, where he decides to do a little bit of background on her. So he goes to an
Art
art
gallery.
gallery where
Yes.
her photographs are displayed. And of course, he walks into this art gallery, and I mean, he doesn't even know highfalutin art terms. So he starts to say, I'm here to look at Ren Bradford's pictures, but he stops himself and he says photographs, because he wants to, say the word. And the gallery attendant is very, very outwardly gay and thinks that Silas is wearing a costume, like a Western, lawman costume. And this unbelievable scene ensues where this guy is flirting all over Silas. And Silas has no idea what's happening. He's extraordinarily uncomfortable, but to his credit, he doesn't mind a bit. He rolls with it. It's the first time it's ever happened. He doesn't judge the guy. He doesn't have a mean thing to say. He loves the guy. He thinks the guy's great. They get along great. And he goes back and tries to figure these photographs out.
And doesn't he at one point in the conversation actually join in and said, well, all I have to do is move the star up above my pocket and I meet the stereotype or something like that.
Yeah. The art gallery guy suddenly realizes, wait a minute, that's a real badge. You're actually you're that new chief of police from the West. And Silas is like, I am, and the whole thing is like, oh, the guy's like, oh, sorry.
That's what's great about Silas is that he does fit in, even though he shouldn't, he does. And that's what makes it so great.
Yeah. He has an innate appreciation and respect for people. Everybody's entitled, and there's a whole scene in his job interview. The reason he gets this job, he's such an improbable fit, but he's talking to the town manager, and the town manager realizes that this guy, I mean, it's not really like a Forrest Gump thing because Silas is smart as hell, but this guy sort of realizes that Silas just believes in human dignity and feels that it's his job, make sure every cow gets equal access to the water trough, right? And that's kind of this philosophical approach to policing, and they just really click. And their relationship has some complexities over the first couple books, but I don't think I'm giving away too much to say that over time, Flood, the town manager, and Silas really become best buddies.
Right. That's good. Because again, that's a relationship that you wouldn't imagine would really exist. So correct me if I'm wrong here, but these are mystery thrillers. Like these are set out as mystery thrillers. But for me, I felt this one was bordering on literary fiction because it's so character driven and it's so emotionally charged about all of the leading characters. And I think that's an example of how well you're introducing the series. So is it?
Oh my gosh! I have to forgive me while I swoon. I think you used the word literary, which is the greatest flattery, a compliment you could ever give me. It is a propelling plot, right?
Yes.
I mean, I wanted it first and foremost to be a book you can't put down. So that's the job one. But I wanted the writing to be as beautiful as it could be.
Yes.
I like books that carry you away and take you to a new place, a new subculture, a new setting, a new location, whatever the case may be. I love books that carry you away. So I worked really, really hard on the setting. But for me, they say a good book, there's emotional stakes. And having a case to solve there's stakes associated in that. But to me, it's a relationship. I needed Silas to have a love interest. And so it's an unusual book because it is at its core, it's a police procedural mystery thriller. But it really does have an extraordinarily well-developed sense of atmosphere and place.
Yes.
And it really is propelled by a multi-book relationship arc with Ren.
Right. So speaking of multi-book arc, and everybody who hasn't already read this book, go ahead and check out my review and then get yourself a copy of this book. You will thank both of us later because it really is an exceptionally good book. And I'm spotting in the corner of the screen, is that the cover for book number 2?
It is. And don't worry, Stephen, you are in the inner circle. You are going to get early ARC access to that book this summer. It is written and it's in line editing. In fact, the line editing is just beating my ass right now. But it is going into final edits and proofreading in the next month or so, and it will go into pre-order in late summer and it'll be ready to go for the busy fall, fiction buying season.
Perfect. So to all of my audience out there, I'll be reading this first and we'll do a launch day video and we'll make sure that you all know the day that it comes out, because by then you will all have read and fallen in love with the Washashore as much as I did and be as anxious as I am for book 2. So we'll make sure that we tee all that up for you. So it's been great to have you on the channel. Thank you so much. Thank you for such a great book. Thank you for suggesting I do meet the author. You're supporting me more than I'm supporting you. So I'm blown away. Thank you so much.
Stephen, it really thanks to you for doing what you do. You are one of the many pillars that holds indie authors up, and the work you're doing on TikTok is work I really admire and I'm super grateful for.
Well, I'm championing indie authors. That's what I say all the time. And I feel like you all work so hard and you just don't have the marketing budgets or marketing teams behind you to push these books out there as much as they need to. So that's my job, and that's what I'm doing tirelessly as often as I can.